Ciao everyone and welcome to Power Your Mindset with Eliana, where we learn self-development in a very simple way. Guys, get ready today because I am beyond excited. Today I want to share with you one of my favorite books ever, and it's literally the book that started opening the doors of abundance in my life and started changing the limiting beliefs I had about money. You ready? The book I want to share with you is called The Science of Getting Rich. And if you already feel uncomfortable with the name of this book, that's the video for you today. The authors of this book is called Wattles, and is already like a tongue twister itself. But this author was born like at the end of the 19th century. So it's one of those authors that started all of the wave of self-development in our era. An interesting insight about this book. This was the book that inspired Rhonda Byrne to write The Secret, the famous book that actually became a documentary that we all know or we heard about at least once in a lifetime. So what this book speaks about, it is literally a manual that will help you to understand how to become rich. Such as sounds pretty much ridiculous, but that is the main topic of this book. So Wattles' theory is that there is a science to become rich, and getting rich is a science like it is the algebra of geometry. I mean, how cool that sounds already. And he actually says the possession of money and property results from doing things in a certain way. And anyone that does things in a certain way, whether intentionally or accidentally, becomes wealthy. Those who do things differently will remain poor, no matter how hard they work or skilled they are. And this is already one of those concepts that make you think like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So for Wattles' theory, becoming rich doesn't depend on the environment, because even in the poorest neighbor, there is always someone that becomes rich and vice versa. So for him, things have to be done in certain ways to become rich. How many of us heard the sentence, money is evil, rich people are mean? And of course, when we hear certain affirmations, what's the belief start growing in us? If I become rich, I become an evil person. So it's better to stay poor. To help us to overcome this limiting belief, Wattles is telling us that we live on 3 different dimensions. That is physical, mental, and spiritual. And each of them are sacred and essential. He also tells us that no one can fully express itself if one of these areas is neglected or ignored. How many times we hear people saying, oh, he had nothing, he was such a noble person. Well, Wattles has something to say against this concept. He actually says that there is nothing really noble in being poor. So many times we associate the concept of nobility and be a good person with having nothing. So for Wattles, there is nothing noble in living only in an intellectual way, or only in a spiritual way, or only in a material way. It's very important that you express each of these areas to live your life at the fullest potential. So for that reasons, he also says that for the material part, you can only arrive to fully express yourself in those also intellectual and spiritual way if you are rich. And exactly for these reasons, Wattles says that you cannot express yourself at your fullest potential if you don't have the finances to pour yourself into that knowledge, into that discovering and those experiences. So you need to be wealthy and rich to express yourself at the fullest potential. It is in our nature to want to become all that we can be. I love this concept because it's all about growing without taking anything away from other people. And so many times we think that if I become too rich, I'm taking something away to someone else. So this book doesn't speak of wealth in a figurative sense. It's all about understanding how to express your full potential. And actually it says, living fully on a spiritual level requires love. And we know that poverty hinders the full expression of love. There is no greater happiness than sharing what we have with those we love. Love finds its fullest and natural expression in giving. So here we start understanding that we need to grow to become more and actually to be able to give back. And tell me if already this is not start changing the whole perception you have about becoming rich and getting more money. And he speaks so much of abundance that he actually says that there is this invisible force, right? That is the same force that makes the plants grow and creates life. And there is such an abundance that it's unlimited, that it's gonna be like, it's never gonna end. And this formless matters always responds to the human needs, and it will never reject something that is required for growth. And this formless matter will never stop providing what is good for growth. So there is literally endless supplies for everyone. Now we start getting a little bit practical here. Your thoughts are the only way that you can create something in this material world out of this formless matter on original substance. And he also makes a good point that everything a person shapes with its hands was first created in his mind. We cannot shape anything unless we first initially had thoughts about it. So every person can shape things with thought, and by impressing their thought in the formless substance can bring about the creation of what they think. The way we act is the direct result of how we think. To do things the way we want, we must learn to think as we wish. It sounds easy, but in reality, that's the biggest challenge. Because also Wattles says that we should think in a certain way, but then life happens and we start becoming negative and we start focusing just on the negative things. And that's the first challenge of why, in his opinion, majority of people don't become wealthy. Because they stop thinking about how to become successful and how to achieving their goals. Because everybody can actually think what they want, but then when life happens, when things go wrong, don't you become all of a sudden sad and start thinking, oh my God, my life is a mess, things are not going as I want. So that's the first concept. Start thinking only about abundance and only in a certain way that move you forward to your goals. And here we have what I would call the first secret of getting rich. The more gratitude we return to the Supreme for the gifts we receive, the more gifts will come in a faster way. And this happens for one reason. The mental attitude of gratitude brings us closer to the source of all blessings. And that's the point. Gratitude, because it's the gratitude that connects us to the divine power, universe, whatever we want to call it, is first the gratitude. Because if we focus on the misery of how everything goes wrong, we can only create a certain events in our life. So the key here is the gratitude and being grateful. And it is hard. When things in your life are not going well, it is hard to focus on being grateful. When you don't have money and you cannot pay rents at the end of the month, when things are going wrong everywhere, it's so hard. And that's the secret. That's one of the secrets. Being grateful even when things are going wrong. And here there is another phrase. Once you are grateful, you need to focus on what you really want and start seeing it and visualizing and being grateful as this has already happened. And there's a certain certainty that that thing is going to happen. And there is not going to be any obstacle about it. You are there, you see it, you feel it, and you are grateful for it as it is already happened. So the first step is thinking about it. Then make a statement and then visualize it. And then act for it. It's not enough just praying, visualizing, and thinking it's gonna happen. Start acting according to that dream you wanna realize. And here there is a part speaking about charity that completely changed my vision of charity in my life because I never heard or read anything similar before. Ready for this? Because it's quite strong. I'm not telling you to not be cynical or rude, not to refuse help to those that ask for it, but you must abstain from conventional methods used to combat poverty. Leave poverty behind, along with everything associated with it, and truly start doing the good. Becoming rich is the best way to help the poor, but how can one have the vision needed to become rich? Here is the concept. Wattles says to not waste time in charitable organizations because they only make poor people poorer. And I was like, okay, wait a second, I'm not understanding here. But then actually says that if you really want to help poor people, you should inspire them, giving them skills and abilities to get out of the situation, not just nurturing poverty with images of poverty all the time. So it's not by you nurturing your mind with poverty images that you're gonna help people to get out of poverty. And it is the same concept of the proverb that says, give a man a fish and you will feed him for a day. Teach a man how to fish and you will feed him for a lifetime. Guys, this for me was huge because all my life I done voluntary projects and I really wanted to help other people. But understanding that here we really need to put an effort on giving people abilities to get out of their situations changed everything for me. Because Wattles says that the poor don't need charity, they need inspirations. They need to be taught how to get out of that situation. Another important point that Wattles speaks about is to not speak about financial issues, any problems, even if you have them, at the moment. Don't feed that thought, because that thought creates a certain reality. So the only thing you should think about is abundance and the things you want to achieve, and do those actions that help you to create it. Focus on wealth and ignore poverty from your mind. It says to not worry about potential disaster and everything, to have the faith that you will always have all the skills you need to overcome any obstacles. And it's this faith with the vision and everything you will do to succeed that will help you to create those positive thoughts that will make you move forward. So completely ignore and completely erase all those limiting beliefs from your mind. I do not feel any competitions, because the resources are so unlimited. There is no way someone can take away from you something that is destined to you. Times can be hard and business uncertain only for those in the competitive plane, not for you. You can create whatever you desire and are above any fear. So the best things you can do to become rich is really become the best version of yourself in all the ways, spiritual, intellectual, and in a material way. Guys, all of these concepts completely changed my life. I hope this will help you in some way. Let me know in the comments how is it going, if you actually like those concepts or there is something you're still doubting about. Let's have a conversation and let me know how you like this book.